Welcome in, everybody. If you can put your name and where you're joining us from in the chat, that way we can see where everybody's from, shout y'all out, just your name, your pronouns, and your region. Okay, awesome. So we are going to get started. And if you still haven't put your name, your region, and your pronouns in the chat, please make sure you do so that everybody can get to know each other. So if you can go to the next slide. Okay, awesome. So we're just going to do some quick introductions. Today we're going to talk about divestment and climate here in Texas. And we brought on Sierra Club, the experts in climate justice here in Texas, to give us a little bit of insight, answer some questions. And this is brought to you by Joel Action. We are a nonprofit Latino civic organization that uses art, culture to get young Latinos in Texas to become civically engaged. And I'll give David a second to introduce Sierra Club and what they do.
Yeah, good afternoon, good evening. I'm not sure what time it is there, to be honest. I'm beaming in from Sacramento, California. I'm out here supporting some family, but I typically work in South Austin. My name is Dave Cortez. My pronouns are he and him. I'm the director of the Sierra Club Lone Star chapter, so the Texas Sierra Club. Work with 8 other folks around the state on a range of issues dealing with water, energy, air pollution, legislation, political. But my trade, I'm a community organizer. I'm born and raised in El Paso. I got trained in organizing, in environmental justice organizing, after school, back in like 2006, 2007. And yeah, I've been working mostly with Sierra Club and labor unions since then. So it's been a minute, but it's great to be here.
Wow, love it. Thank you for joining us, Dave. And just because I didn't introduce myself, my name is Jay, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm with Joel Action. I'm a regional organizer here in the DFW region. So now let's get to what we're going to talk about today, a little agenda over here. So we're just going to talk about why this issue matters. We're going to talk about the Texas and climate crisis. We're going to deep dive into where is your energy coming from. We're going to talk about campus and climate. And then finally, we're going to go into some fossil fuel divestment and explaining what divestment means.
Rock and roll. So yeah, if you all are ready for that, a little bit of conversation about the climate crisis, because it's a huge deal in Texas, also a huge deal out here where I am in California, I'm finding out, maybe even all around the world. But if you're down to talk, drop us an emoji reaction or drop a note in the chat saying let's go. Um, Let me kick it. Did you want to cover the goals, Jay, or you want me to go through this?
Yes, I can go through the goals.
Go for it.
Okay, awesome. So we're just going to do a quick overview of what we want to come out of this workshop. We want to ground ourselves on why we need to build local power and statewide networks to protect our communities from the climate crisis. Secondly, we want clear answers on where our electricity comes from at home and on college campuses in Texas. We also want to learn about organizing for fossil fuel divestment. And finally, identify opportunities to build campus campaigns. So we're gonna break all of this down today. And before we get into it, I want to do a very brief icebreaker exercise. So if you are ready for this training, if you are ready to listen and learn about the climate here in Texas, and what divestment is, put an emoji in the chat. Um, uh, like turn on your cameras. We want to see your beautiful faces. Wave, put something in the chat. Let us know that you're excited. I'll give you a second because I'm seeing only 2 people. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Christina. Okay. Yulisa, I see your beautiful face. Hi. Awesome. Okay.
All
So
right.
now that we are ready, as we go through the presentation and you have a question that pops up, please, please, please don't be shy. Put the question in the chat, or you can wait until the end for our Q&A session. And then I'll pass it on to Dave to take over.
Rock and roll. Yeah. It's thank you, Jay. You're awesome. And apologies for my misstep there. It's like dancing with somebody for the first time. You got to get your steps synced. Y'all, we'll go about maybe let's call it like 30 minutes of me yapping, but there'll be some chances for you all to get in. Use the chat, come off mute, chime in. We're just holding this virtual space together. Obviously, as you see on your screen, it's a critical time. I will be very blunt with you. Uh, it was extremely hard. It still is just thinking about. It was extremely hard last month with the floods. Um, you know, so much trauma exists in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirits in Texas. Not just from what we, see on the news in the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, but intergenerationally, our people have been through a lot and have faced repression, oppression uh, for generations. And so even, yesterday seeing, opening Instagram and seeing those Uvalde videos messed me up. It brought back all kinds of stuff. When the floods hit, I realized, well, it took me a few days to realize, but I was like, I'm not just sad, I'm not just angry. It's a culmination and accumulation of so much horror and anger and hurt from previous disasters and from leadership that openly, willingly turns a blind eye and puts their power ahead of our communities and our people. And what that means is those first 5 words: people are dying. More than 700 Texans died in 2021's winter storm. Uh, many more died in the July 4th floods. Uh, Many more died, those of y'all in Houston, in the hurricane, in the aftermath from the heat, living in 100-degree heat with no electricity. Many more have died in floods in the Rio Grande Valley. The list goes on and on and on, and it's horrific. This is unacceptable. It shouldn't have to be this way, but it is. And I just want you to know that there's reasons that it is this way, and there's pathways to undoing this systemic injustice that is killing our families, friends, neighbors, and communities. Abbott and the Texas legislature, instead of confronting the climate crisis, they don't even acknowledge it. They have taken public dollars, from the Texas budget, and used it to finance new fossil fuel power plants. They've tried to penalize clean energy. They've used public dollars to finance the militarization of our communities on the border, from the national defense areas in El Paso, in the Rio Grande Valley, and everywhere in between, to where you can't go get groceries or pan dulce without fearing being taken, maybe detained or hostage by some unidentified masked person. We're all paying for that because people in power say that's more important than what you see on your screen. And that's an important grounding for us about the environment that we're in. I don't mean to bring us all down too much, but it is a critical lesson that we stay focused on what's at risk. Just a brief note, as I mentioned some of those previous storms, it's everywhere around the state. I can't even list in one slide, from wildfires to multiple ice storms, the derecho that hit Houston, stronger tornadoes. The list goes on and on. There's flooding in northeast San Antonio just a couple months ago. It goes on and on and on how much we're we're dealing with. And let's see if this picture loads. This lovely gentleman is A-okay. So I like to remind people that no matter what your beef is or your grievance is in Texas, there has been one group of people in power leading our state. Can anybody in the chat tell me for how long? How long has one party been in power in Texas? Too long is a great answer. I'm thinking a number. Give me a number while I switch slides here. I was going to say your whole life. About your whole life. 25 years. 25 years of one party rule. Yet they keep blaming us. And they keep blaming all these other things. We're going to take a moment and remember, I'm sure you all remember living through the winter storm in 2025. I'm sorry, in 2021. I'll just say briefly, what you're going to see on the video is a bit jarring. This was a New York Times editorial video they made before Governor Abbott's election. I went through a lot in that storm with my family. I'm sure you did with yours. But let's just take a moment and watch this breakdown. Let me go ahead and share my screen one more time, because this is a really excellent context to how we got here. Oh, you gotta do the audio. And here we go.
And the private companies that power Texas were free to invest their profits however they chose. When private companies have a choice between investing in expensive precautions or boosting profits, you can guess what happens. What the oil and gas industry did do with their money over the years was donate $26 million to Greg Abbott's campaigns. Fortunately, Texas has two organizations whose job it is to oversee the power grid, and Governor Abbott appoints the leadership himself.
ERCOT board members Mark Carpenter, Lori Kobos, and Deanne Walker all contributed to past Governor Abbott campaigns, pouring in a combined $18,670.
So as temperatures began to plunge in February 2021, despite a 10-year heads up, Texas was more vulnerable than ever.
Here's the deal. We do, as a state, have the ability to ensure that we do not run out of power.
That didn't age well. On Sunday morning, temperatures fell to record-breaking lows.
Winter storms in central Texas are only getting worse as the sun goes down.
Among the millions trying to keep warm, 87-year-old Connie Mae Ritchie and her daughter, Kalinda.
She was already hurting, and we were having to up her medication somewhat because her bones were aching. It really seemed to be getting worse.
Connie Mae was home, wrapped in blankets and wearing a catheter. That's an important detail.
I went on Amazon, I bought some little heaters, thinking, okay, if I can, this is kind of a drafty area, I can heat it up in here.
Those little heaters use a lot of juice. And as day turned to night, the Texas power grid was pushed to its limit. And that's exactly when those unregulated and unweatherproofed power stations froze up. One by one, they shut down, and the amount of electricity in the grid plummeted.
Too many people need electricity right now, and there's nowhere near enough to go around. It's that simple.
We do, as a state, have the ability to ensure we do not run out of power.
He was wrong, and you paid the price.
And then when the electric went off, the first Monday we did pretty good, but Tuesday was freezing. We were so cold.
While you were scrambling around with a flashlight, Abbott's regulators made one more costly decision. They raised wholesale electricity prices from an average of $25 a megawatt hour to $9,000. Yeah, $9,000 an hour. Making electricity expensive is meant to be a temporary measure to incentivize power stations to keep running. But Abbott's officials would keep this insane price up for almost 5 days. Abbott knew about it and didn't try to stop it. Meanwhile, Texas natural gas suppliers had a chance to profit from skyrocketing prices. And boy, they really cashed in. These companies made hundreds of millions of dollars in unexpected profits. And one company, Energy Transfer, well, let them tell you how much they made.
In total, we now expect to realize approximately $2.4 billion from the storm.
The blackouts continued through Tuesday.
I started to panic because I knew it was, last night was cold, this is going to be super cold.
And into Wednesday. Remember Connie Mae's catheter?
4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I was going to drain the urine out of the bag. Her urine was bloody and it was like slush, like icy slush in the catheter tubing and bag.
In the cold, it had frozen.
So when I tried to drain the bag, I couldn't drain the bag because the slush was so thick.
The hospital was their last hope.
So she left here and she went to the hospital. South Austin, they stopped them at South Austin, said no, she can't go there because the pipes broke.
Remember, this isn't just a story about an entirely preventable humanitarian catastrophe. It's also a story about greed. So get this, at the exact same moment Connie Mae was heading to the hospital, Comstock Resources, a Texas natural gas company, was holding its quarterly earnings call.
And but I think that's paid off pretty well in both January and February because prices have been moving up, and obviously this week is like hitting the jackpot, is some of these incredible prices.
Sean, this shows how the Green New Deal would be a deadly deal for the United States of America.
Later that evening, Greg Abbott was on Fox News trying to score political points off the disaster.
It just shows that fossil fuel is necessary for the state of Texas as well as
Of course, many Texans couldn't
blame someone else. The classic pivot of Greg Abbott. They also quickly pivoted to Operation Lone Star after that. Talked about the threats of these invading people coming across the border like they do every time. The couple quick lessons before we reflect on this. We must know and remember, nobody is going to stop or negotiate with the fossil fuel industry for us. We have to do that together with like-minded, values-aligned allies. Politicians will continue, they have for a generation, my whole generation, unfortunately for your generation, they will continue to actively put polluter interests ahead of ours in our kids' futures. I have a 7-year-old daughter. But, specifically for universities and students, alumni, parents of folks in college, and donors, people who give money to their former school or just like the campus, they have a lot of power to create change on campus. All the benefits and the rights that we have in our lives right now, as much as they're being taken away, we weren't just given these. They weren't just inherited. They were fought for. People organized from, Fannie Lou Hamer to Cesar Chavez to so many before us, organized for those rights. So I want you all to just take, let's give it 1 minute. You saw that video. We've talked about these disasters. Just take a moment and journal. Just reflect on, let me put these questions back up, but I'll narrate them for you as well. Why are you here today? What do you want to change? And what holds you back from making that change happen? So let's give it 1 minute here. Feel free to put in the chat if you have any thoughts to those. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you all, a couple of y'all to come off mute and share. Think about climate change. Think about fossil fuels and pollution. Think about your, student in college journey, what you might want to learn about, what you are learning about. If you want to have a family, if you have family in other places that are affected by these things. Feel free to drop any thoughts in the chat. And if you don't want to share, that's cool too. It's just helpful to personalize what we're talking about a bit as we go through this dense conversation. Thank you, Fernando. You all can see in the chat, there's some good stuff there. Thank you, Jackie. Anybody feeling some energy and want to come off mute and share? Go ahead, Yulissa.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I'm a little sick right now, so if I sound a little rusty, it's because of that. Hi everybody, my name is Ulisa, and I came here today because admittedly, I don't think I know as much about environmental policy or um the fossil fuel industry as I probably should. I do believe that climate change is real, and I do believe that our government is not prioritizing these very preventable tragedies from happening. Like most recently, with the floods. I live in Austin, so the surrounding area was very much affected, and we still have people that are volunteering to find loss of life and other things. So something I want to change is my own lack of knowledge, and I also want to, I guess, gain knowledge to be able to convince others, um, like my family, to start caring about this specific issue. I feel like because it's so abstract and so like, oh, well, it's not going to affect us, tomorrow. It's going to be another year, another, generation, whatever. I feel like it's often that kind of goes into the third question there. That's what gets in the way, I think, of like me making that change, because people are so short-sighted, in my opinion, and they don't realize that these environmental issues are racialized issues. Like our community, nuestra gente, are the ones that are suffering the most. And I don't think the dots have been connected in that fluid of a way for us to understand what we as citizens, as people, can do about it. So, I mean, I it's easy to be in the doom and the gloom and, see all this and say that we can't do anything about it because it's nature, but we can. And I guess that's why I'm here. I want to learn what we can do.
We'll get it, yo. Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. And Christina, Elisa, Jay, the Jolt team, let's put in the bike rack. Let's talk about something in the future about how folks can talk to their non-campus networks about these issues. I what I'm going to say today is not what I say out in community. I talk about people's bills. I talk about these disasters that, maybe hurt them directly, but I don't get into the climate stuff very much. And so there's a lot of strategies we can unpack. But basically, I think generally the high level for what's driving climate change, we have an outdated energy economy, an outdated economy that's over 100 years old and is built on burning things from the earth to create electricity. We tried to move away from it. We've been trying to move away from it, but there's money to be made in doing it the way it's always been done. That's our economic system. It completely prioritizes profit over the long-term sustainability of our resources. That's everything from forests to water to clean, breathable air. If there's money to be made, they'll put a quarry, rock mine next to your community before they will protect your community. And our system is built to prioritize making profit instead of prioritizing the well-being of our communities. Now in Texas, what's making it even worse is we've seen so much solar power, so much wind power come onto our electric grid that has actually kept the lights on for the last few years since the winter storm. We're seeing huge big tech firms and tech companies, artificial intelligence firms and companies, crypto miners come to Texas. There's a new gold rush, and they're building their data centers. They're building their crypto mines that consume massive amounts of electricity. I mean, unbelievable amounts of electricity. So much that it is projected that our electricity consumption this year will double in just 6 years. Okay, and that's huge. We're the biggest energy consuming state in the country. That's a big deal. So it will be largely because of these industries, but also because it's hot and we got to use the air conditioner. It's getting worse and worse, and it's very hard for people to live in our homes. Those companies are also consuming water. That's right. But we drive. Our whole infrastructure in our state is built on using gasoline, some form of fuel that is not renewable. And all of those combined are making Texas the #1 carbon polluter in the country and one of the largest carbon polluters in the entire world. I won't get into the science of it all. I think we probably know some of that already. But let's really get into why we're fighting climate change and what's going on. It's about power. So in the chat, when I say the word power, what ideas or words do you think of? What comes to mind? Power. What is power? Influence, right on. Money, making decisions for people, yeah, without their consent. Nothing with us, nothing for us without us. You've ever heard that saying, right? Control. Yeah. Or, fundamentally, it can just mean to be able to do something. Nuestra poder, I can do it. We can do it. The ability to act is sort of the Webster's definition of things. It's also about how we talk about the energy that that's powering our devices right now. Fuels our cars, keeps our economy running. Power, whether it's social and political power or literal, the power in electrons, shapes our world, and it has for over 100 years since the Industrial Revolution. It determines who can and can't vote. It drives climate change. It sets your university's path for prioritizing clean energy for all on campus, or a future that's powered by what's been our source of energy for the past several decades, fossil fuels. So think of power in those two ways, right? It's everything you all said: influence, ability, control, but also just literal power. And your campus, whichever campus you go to, it uses a lot of juice, y'all. You've probably seen some buildings that look like this one here in the middle. That's a on-site power plant. Your labs, your sports arenas, your dorms, everything we do on campus consumes a massive amount of electricity. We have a saying in the environmental community that the cleanest form of electricity is the one that we don't use, so conservation. I'm not so good at that. I gotta admit, I've lived in Texas my whole life. I still like the AC to be about, 77, maybe a little chilly. But we have to think a little bit about how is our campus powered. So let's do some, big and ugly and loud for sure. So let's think a little bit about some campuses that I can't see everybody here, but so I try to put together a few examples. For the Aggies here, you all are the front row, the front line of nuclear power testing. If you're at Texas A&M in College Station, you also are powered by gas power plants. That's so from like fracking, everything you see out in the Permian Basin, all that drilling that pulls up gas, your university is powered mostly by that. If you're in Austin, it's a mix. You've got on-site and a bunch of very complicated technology, but you also get some power from Austin Energy. So if you live in West Campus, but you're not in, the Jester dorm, you probably pay a bill, or somebody pays a bill to Austin Energy. Austin Energy is a publicly controlled utility, meaning it's technically owned by the people, and therefore it tends to be a little bit cleaner and greener. Still has some bad stuff, fossil fuels, but it has a whole heck of a lot of solar power, similar to San Antonio. So I saw some San Antonio folks earlier. If you're at Trinity or St. Mary's or Incarnate Word or anywhere in San Antonio, you know about CPS Energy. They do have a lot of clean energy. They also have some coal and some gas. These power plants are producing electricity to fuel your campus. Just like any other campus around the state, most of your power is going to be imported from large fossil fuel power plants that you don't really see a whole lot. But maybe like if you're driving between Austin and Houston, you see a power plant, big smokestacks coming out. Or if you're going from San Antonio to Corpus Christi, you'll see some power plants and lakes and things. That's what's making the juice come online. Any produced power is going to pollute or not pollute. It's that simple. Now we could get into the semantics of, well, so does manufacturing solar panels. Most things that are produced are going to pollute. But when it comes to power, if it's producing electricity, some does what you see on the left side of your screen. That's the Dealey power plant station outside of San Antonio, coal-fired and gas-fired power plants. And this example here is actually Duke University has a really robust rooftop solar program for their campus buildings, including their dorms. It doesn't power everything 24 hours a day, but it really helps reduce the dependency on these large fossil fuel power plants. So that's a crash course on where our energy comes from. We could go into a lot more detail, but for your campus environment, that is generally the breakdown. So what do we do? What do we do about this? Let's go back to our lessons on power, right? We can push for policies like we're seeing at the Texas legislature on flood relief right now, but it tends to not be prioritized and it tends to die. I tell the environmental community repeatedly, my whole career, coming from El Paso, hey, people don't listen to you. You have to find another way to win. It can't just be about getting a policy passed. You have to organize, you have to build a base, you have to get people registered to vote, you got to get them to vote, but also you got to get beyond the vote. You have to help people, especially in these climate disasters. We have to have systems of mutual aid and support. So when something bad is happening, we're there to support our community. So the biggest lesson we can have, and I think you all get this really well, better than a lot of environmentalists that I've worked with, is focusing on who holds power. So these are a couple questions you can come back to when you reference this presentation. And think about this for a moment. Feel free to drop in the chat if you like. How is your university or your campus powered? And where is that coming from? Is it there on campus? I think Fernando was putting, in the chat, live next to something on campus. Or is it far away or you just don't know? The key factor is who makes that decision. Is it you? Do you want it to be you? Would you like to be part of that decision-making process? Everything we watched about in that video about the profits, Governor Abbott, campaign contributions, that is the status quo. There are lots of people that want that system to continue that way. That has a consequence for us and our communities. What we started off talking about: death, hardship, loss, economic impact. So who's making the decisions? And are there any interests beyond you and your peers, your fellow students and faculty and staff who influence those decisions? So reflect on that for a moment. I'm curious if anybody knows on your campus how it's powered and who makes that decision. Anybody got something for me?
Can I take a wild guess?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm graduated from UT. I know you stated earlier it's on campus. I want to say the Board of Regents or maybe the city.
Yeah.
That decision, I'm not really sure. Total wild guess.
Like a lot of, I think of it like a gerrymandered congressional map. It's insanely complex. It's like, who made this? What is this thing? So if you were to break it down and make a tree of those decision makers, it would be more like a web. It would be a tangled web. And there's a lot of research that has to be done. It definitely depends on public versus private colleges for sure, but you have to look for opportunities. Does the student government have a say in this? What does the Alumni Association have to say about our campus's sustainability plan? Do we have a sustainability plan? Why isn't this information on our website? Why is it so hard for me to find this? I work with folks in the Rio Grande Valley who are part of an electric co-op, so it's sort of like a public utility. The rules for them to participate in their co-op are like 1930s voting laws. It's horrific. You have to vote in person. It's very tilted so women can't vote. It's in English only. It's systems by design. So these are important questions to come back to that you can research with your peers. Hey, let's think for a minute. Where do we get our power from on campus, and who's making that decision? At Stanford, there was a group called Fossil Free Stanford. My colleague Shane Johnson, some of y'all know him, was an organizer with that when he was going to school there. They made some really ambitious demands. So when you think about divestment, or you say that word, or you read about it when you Google, you're going to hear stuff about breaking a university's financial investments in fossil fuels. So like, who do they bank with? What are the endowments tied to in terms of oil and gas corporations? It's awesome, but really complex stuff. So one of the first demands that Fossil Free Stanford was making was what you read here, divest and disassociate from the industry entirely. And let's go ahead and throw in the military industrial complex too. Really bold demand. But more tangible local demand that they were able to make some progress on was trying to raise the profile of career pathways, learning and programs for sustainability, renewable energy, tech and engineering that would help create a green, clean energy economy. Fundamentally, this is the biggest one, and this is what we have to do, whether it's on campus climate organizing, or campus reproductive rights organizing, or immigrant rights organizing. We want to build power in our own community, which for y'all is going to be your student networks. We want to do everything we can, which Jolt does a great job, because I've been talking to Jolt for years, and it's awesome to see these folks coming back or new folks coming in. You make it sustainable and intergenerational. And the thing that I learned while organizing in El Paso on EJ work was the tremendous benefit to tying it with off-campus community organizing. So if you are in, say, I saw some Fort Worth folks in this call. If you're organizing on your campuses out there, try to build your network and have a little off-ramp to where you all go attend maybe once a month or every few weeks the local environmental coalition meeting or happy hour or hike or something. Get to know folks that are doing other work, engaging your city council, your county commissioners, because those folks are going to have a lot more access to resources in terms of money, policy knowledge. They might even have some relationships. They might have even gone to the school that you're going to. And it's going to really help your community of newer organizers get connected to folks who've been doing some work. And it's this beautiful weaving together of a fabric that is essential for good organizing. Now, I'm gonna stop my share for a moment and just close for a moment, open up some questions. This is all a whole lot, and there's no clear path right now for you to go off and start your work. The best thing we can do is signify that you have interest in doing this work. If you're interested in stopping and resisting these climate disasters, because unfortunately, I hate to tell you, there's going to be more. If you're interested in learning about what is fueling the climate crisis in Texas, whether it's AI or these data centers or all these other things, we just need to show, hey, I want to learn more. And then this team here at Jolt, my team at Sierra Club, will follow up. We can help design some resources. We can help connect you with other resources so we can continue to have more conversations. But fundamentally, if we're not organizing, we're not going to win. And I'm so proud to be here with you all because I know you organize and I know Jolt organizes. And it's just not been a bedrock for a lot of the environmental community in Texas. So any chance I get to talk to other folks committed to organizing and building power, I'm here. So thank you for letting me ramble at you for a little while. Let's open the space for some questions if you all have any, or feel free to put them in the chat if you don't want to come off mute.
I guess I will piggyback off Christina's question. I want to know, have there been SGA, like student government associations on campuses that have worked towards being decision makers in where energy is coming from or divestment or anything of that sort?
Yeah. You know, any chance you get to slow the wheel of the status quo is good. And so you want to look for those opportunities. Uh, I supported some students at my alma mater, St. Edward's in Austin, in their campus sustainability, Students for Sustainability group. They figured, well, the SGA should probably pass something that says we support powering our campus with clean energy. And so that's something they worked and they built a campaign for. They started petitions to do that. They tabled around campus for that. They met with their student government representatives, student government president, and they met with there was a sustainability faculty that they could talk to and things like that. The reason I say this stuff being intergenerational is so important is because they wait us out. They wait you out. This stuff takes time. But that was one example that I was personally involved in that did help grow that group and help them recruit, help them get more people plugged into what they were doing. And they didn't just do that. You know, they had community gardens, they had hikes, they'd go to Barton Springs, all kinds of good stuff around the environment.
I love that. Yeah, because organizing is also about building community. So it's a very important factor in all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Find a target.
Hi, Dave. I had a quick comment. We have been, my name is Maria Tolentino. I'm the director of programs for Joel. And for me personally, because I live in Harris County, we live right near Pasadena, Texas, right? And I think it's really important. One of the conversations that we've had over the last 5 years is really changing the narrative about, because there's a lot of Latino families that live and are able to, you know, bring their families out of poverty that work in oil and gas. And so the conversations that we've been having over the last 5 years is changing that narrative, right? Changing the narrative about, you know, the guilt, right, that we impose sometimes on those individuals for going to work for those oil and gas companies. I would like maybe just a little bit of advice, again, because we have been talking about climate change and how we can do that and changing that conversation. What we've learned in the field, and a lot of the times, you know, a lot of even our board members were like, you know, Pasadena, Texas is a lost cause, and, you know, running the numbers, and the people are like 50-50, right? And just if you would give us just some advice on how to have those conversations outside of like maybe long-term effects. I think something that you said really resonated with me earlier about people don't think about like the long-term change or the long-term effects. We're thinking about now, and those are families that, you know, want to live in the now and get their families out. Sorry, my finger got in the way. But I was just saying that, like, you know, with the lack there sometimes of alternatives, like education being really expensive, or, you know, needing a degree to, you know, sometimes earn higher wages, right? Just maybe some advice on some conversations. I do know that we have a lot of newer organizers in this space right now. And as much as, you know, I say like, find some common ground, like, it's not always, it doesn't always have to be a negative conversation. It could be like, yes, you can work, but it's about holding maybe your company accountable or creating initiatives with fellow employees. Just, I mean, if I could hear just some of your advice on having those conversations, because we'll continue to do the work in Pasadena, Texas, and in other areas that are affected with climate change. And like someone else said, it does, you know, affect our BIPOC community the most because we're the ones that are impacted the most.
Totally. That's fantastic. Know who you're talking to, right? Know your community. If you're talking to folks that don't know a lot about climate change, don't go talking about climate change, right? I train my team and I work with partners and I learn from partners like Arise Adelante in Hidalgo County about talking about these issues through an economic justice lens, that fossil fuels are causing our bills to be more expensive. The 2021 storm that happened, I connect on that human level. Do we remember that? Or the hurricane in Houston, whatever? That was terrible, right? And we try to hold that. That's why I tried to bring it up with y'all first. Like, that stuff should not happen, and we don't want it to happen again, but we need to be ready for when it does. So we talk about it, but the companies that were, as you learned in the video, that were responsible for that made billions of dollars off of it. And then we got tasked with paying that. So the legislature and Governor Abbott said, you know what, somebody's got to pay for that. And they allowed all of us to be assigned that burden. So now I hope you all know, for the next 30 years, we're paying for the winter storm. If you pay an electric bill, you'll be paying for it for 30 years to come because of legislation that was passed. But I also just try to talk about everybody's bills are too high. As we say, the rent is too damn high. And so I try to talk to people about that. Hey, you have a light bill. Is it too damn high? Who's your power company? Here's some information about how to save money on your bills, and just trying to open the door to a larger conversation through that. So when they don't know about climate change or are skeptical about it, or they worked in the oil and gas industry, I start there. I make sure that our teams are also demanding good jobs and community benefits of the clean energy industry. Like in Baytown, they're trying to build some clean energy battery projects, but the companies don't want to do community workforce development programs. They don't want to do local hire for their stuff. They want to bring people in from out of state, and it just comes down to corporations, right? Is it corporate power or is it people power? Regardless of the target, we have to demand the best for our community. So that's what I was talking about earlier, Jolt team. Like, I think we can work on some talking points and some materials to help you all talk to your families, talk to your friends who don't know a lot about climate change, but know about that storm, know about the flood, and are bothered by it. And let's use that tragedy to open the door to a larger conversation. And I would look to you all to inform that. Like, I don't have all the answers. You know how best to talk to your community.
I wanted to ask, well, I have a lot of questions, but I'll
Yeah, go ahead.
Specifically, I feel that environmental justice has almost been rebranded time and time again. And this time around, because of the devastation of the most recent July 4th Texas floods, a lot of Republicans have almost rebranded climate change as weather manipulation, and all this talk about how I don't even know where to start with this, but my question is, how can we meet the middle with people who are not using the correct scientific evidence-based terms? Sorry, I'm a researcher, so I like using my facts here to prove that humans are very much affecting the climate, and that's not a good thing. Without I guess compromising this whole narrative they're trying to weave about.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was a little convoluted, but
No, you're good.
Got the gist.
You're good. I think this is part of the exercises that we need to explore. We have to find the common thread in any organizing. If you don't have a common shared interest that is your anchor for that relationship with that person or those people, your work is going to be really difficult. When I'm at the doors, I try to, I use the old Saul Alinsky model of polarizing first. Like, hey, did you know that those people over there have all this while we're here struggling with nothing? Or our folks were hit by the flood, we didn't get any help, but those folks over there did. Why is that? Right? finding that common thread first. If someone's coming at you with a lot of that stuff, yeah, it's like Thanksgiving dinner. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and move on to your next person. But I think we can find ways to thread through those conversations. There's all kinds of stuff people throw at you. It's tough. I get it. I had a friend using the weather modification stuff, and we made sure in our blogs to write about weather modification and that it's not what we had on July 4th. But yeah, try to, organizing is a numbers game. We all know that. Find that common anchor, work with those folks first. We should talk more. And yeah, it is expensive to be poor. Well said. But yeah, I'd love to talk to y'all more about, how we're using the expensive economic piece. If you all pay your bills, let me know if you need any help breaking that down. Shane and our other organizers are helping put some trainings together for folks to read about, what are all these charges on your bills? What do these mean? Where did they come from? Hint, a lot of them came from the legislature. It might only be $2.30 a month, but you'll be paying that $2.30 a month for whatever number of months 30 years is.
I don't know, like, so for me, I guess not really a question, just wanted to like say, I think that it's really gonna be impactful to simply just bring up the because you said it was what from, or like the video said it was like from $28 to like 9,000 or something like that, so it's like yeah, like I think that simply just bringing that up is gonna really impact people, because sadly people don't like, and I think somebody else mentioned it, but like, like sometimes people don't understand what climate change is or like anything like that, and so they're ignorant on that subject. But guess what, all of us are not ignorant on money, like, because we all understand, like, oh well, I have $0, I no longer can afford to do anything, or X, you name it. So yeah, I just think that yeah, just like learning more about that kind of stuff is going to be really a powerful tool for us, to even like win people over. That because so like, let's check it out, like in my opinion, I think that it sucks, but people get comfortable, like even if their comfort is not a stable comfort. Like people are like, oh well, I grew up, like with freaking, like gasoline and fossil fuels and all that. That's what I know, so therefore that's what I'm comfortable with. And like whenever you tell them, all right, cool, like that's what you're comfortable with, but guess what, like now you're paying this much more, like, so it's like you take it away from what they're uncomfortable with, which in this case would be, like climate change, and you give it to them like in a more digestible form, which is expensiveness.
Yeah. Oh, and our families are comfortable with the past a lot of times. We all have someone in our families. I'd love to work with you all more. Thank you for that comment, brother. Appreciate you all so much. I do have to get to wrapping up. Got my little one in the next room. Been on the iPad a little too long.
Yes. So if you have any other questions, we're gonna send out Dave's email. That way you can reach out to him. I just want to remind y'all that we're all in this fight together, whether it's just educating yourself or advocating on the field, texting your friends, talking with your family about this. It all plays a part in this bigger picture. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And can we please get some heart emojis, some like party emojis for Dave in the chat for leading this conversation today? Hey, okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. And I hope everybody has a great night.
Peace, y'all. Thank you.